Hello everyone and welcome to Totem, short for Tales of the Motherland. We are excited to share some African folk tales with you and your families in an effort to keep these stories alive and have the younger generation learn the stories their ancestors listened to when they were their age. It is our sincere hope that even our youngest audience members find something to get excited about on our channel. That is why we decided to include these age-old folk tales. As always, thank you for your support and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories. Let's begin. How Tortoise got his rough shell. A long time ago, in the land west of the Sahara Desert, way north of the Adamawa Plateau and the Niger River, a drought and famine were ravaging the lives of the creatures that called this place home. There had been no rain in well over 7 full moons, and crops were yielding close to nothing. Yes, no yams, no corn, and definitely no gari came around easily this season. Even cassava and egusi became a rare find. It was no surprise then that all the animals on the land looked bony and miserable. Life was very hard, and survival was a daily struggle. They were all skin and bones, except for the birds. No one knew why that was, and no one really tried to find out, until Tortoise decided to dip his nose in their business. Tortoise was very smart and very curious, but he was also very cunning and never hesitated to trap any unsuspecting victim into his mischievous plans. He decided to find out what kept all the birds plump and happy despite the famine the rest of the animals were enduring. He therefore approached the birds and asked them where they got their food from. The birds replied that they got it from the people in the sky. The birds added that the people in the sky were actually having a party that very same day, and all the birds were planning to go get their weekly share of food. It would be a feast none of them would want to miss. Really? The people in the sky? Asked an incredulous tortoise. Yes, answered the birds in unison. I don't believe you. I think you guys are just a bunch of liars, Tortoise replied. We would not lie about this. Why would we? Said the offended birds. They did not like to be called liars, not even by Tortoise, who was the most untrustworthy animal in the village. Well, if you want me to believe you, you will have to prove it to me, said Tortoise, with his arms crossed, making sure to ignore the question altogether. How? The birds replied. You would have to take me to the party with you, Tortoise simply replied. The birds laughed. How can we take you to the party with us when you cannot even fly? Said Eagle. True, said Tortoise pensively. I did not think about that. Everyone remained quiet for a little while, thinking that the matter was over. But soon, Tortoise continued. I have an idea. If each one of you birds lend me one feather, perhaps I could fly up there with you. The birds consulted with one another for a brief moment, and then decided it was okay. They figured that losing one feather to prove their point was no big deal at all. They took Tortoise's suggestion. They each plucked one of their feathers and gave it to Tortoise, who stuck all feathers carefully on each one of his 2 arms to form wings. The group then took flight towards the sky, heading to the party. Mid-flight, Tortoise told the birds that it would be wise to follow an old tradition where they would each pick a special name to go by, just for the party. The birds thought it strange that they had never heard of such tradition, but they agreed and they each picked a name. After the birds had all picked a name, Tortoise did the same for himself, and he decided to be called All of You. And so it was. They finally arrived at their host's party, all the way up in the sky, among the clouds. It was customary for the newest member of the group to give a speech in honor of the hosts, so Tortoise did just that. He gave a marvelous speech indeed. After all, he was known for being an excellent orator, and he delivered according to his talent. Everyone was pleased, and the birds were very happy to have brought him along. The hosts then brought out the food, but before they could serve it, Tortoise asked, "Who is all this food for?" "This food is for all of you," answered the hosts. Tortoise reminded the birds that that was his name, which meant that all the food was his. The birds were angry at him as they watched Tortoise feast on all the delicious food that had been prepared. He ate and ate and ate. Every time they brought more food, he would ask the same question, and the answer would always be, "All of you." He ate the best part of the food, leaving only meager scraps and bones on which the hungry birds barely got a peck at. Finally, they had enough and they started leaving the party. But each bird made sure to take its feather back before flying back home. They were so mad at Tortoise and mad at themselves for believing that perhaps for once he would not be so cunning. Tortoise, realizing that he would not be able to fly back home, implored with them to take a message to his wife. But the birds refused. They all refused except for Eagle. Eagle was probably the one who was most upset with Tortoise, but he agreed to take Tortoise's message down to his wife. "Please tell my wife to take out all soft objects she can find in the house and put them outside for me," said Tortoise. Eagle promised to give his message, but when he got to Tortoise's wife, he told her to put everything hard outside the house. Remember, Eagle was the one who was most angry at Tortoise. So Tortoise's wife did as Eagle had instructed her, innocently thinking that that was her husband's request. She took out all the pots and pans, and tables and chairs, all the forks and knives, and everything one could think of that was hard and sharp. From up in the sky, Tortoise saw his wife take things out of the house, but he could not tell what they were. He was just too far high. He just assumed that she got his message, and when he saw that she was finished, he took the jump. He jumped and fell for a long time until he landed on the hard surface with a loud kaboom, he die? Did he die? No. Tortoise's shell shattered in many pieces. Oh no, thought his wife, feeling sad for her husband. She hurried and called Dibia, the medicine man, to come and help. Dibia managed to glue all of Tortoise's shattered shell pieces together, but his once smooth shell was no more. Instead, he now had a rough and cracked shell. That is the shell we all see him wearing nowadays. And that, folks, is how Tortoise got his shell, and he never ever tried tricking anyone again. The end.